Hi everybody, it's Amanda with Pain to Purpose Coaching, and I've got a video today for you about anger versus self-loyalty, and this common pattern. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into it and then discuss some ways on how to get out of it. So a lot of the times when we have this pattern, a lot of people, they don't trust themselves how to react in certain situations or how to be socially, and that can be a really uncomfortable place to add to on top of the reason why it all started. And it's a lot of the reason why that, traditional therapy, anger management, meds, jail, things like that, punishments, they don't work. None of this stuff works because we're not getting to the root of the problem. And until we understand the entire purpose for anger and the reason that we have it and what it serves and how we use it, then none of these things are going to get corrected, right? So there is a better way to live. Anger is one of those things that can affect your health. It can affect every relationship you have. It can affect your money. It can affect your day-to-day, everything. So you're not going to be able to trust anybody. You're not going to be able to trust yourself. It's just a really uncomfortable and sad place to be in. So I want to empower people and talk about this and show them different ways that they can work their way out of this and start to understand more about it. So a lot of the time when we have this pattern, it develops in childhood. And the thing is that, like I said, we don't trust ourselves how we're going to respond to anything. And what happens is that when we were younger, the reason this pattern starts, or how it began, is that it's like a fragment that began whenever we were experiencing pleasure or experiencing pain, or something was going on, and the people around us, whether it be our caregivers or family members or whoever, our pain or our pleasure wasn't validated. It wasn't acknowledged. It wasn't seen. We weren't heard. We weren't understood. And what that does is it creates a dynamic of us seeing everybody else as an adversary. And that in order to be loyal to ourselves and protect our most vulnerable selves, which is why we have anger, anger is there to be a protector of your most vulnerable self. And so when we see everybody else outside of ourselves as an adversary or something like that, then we use anger to deal with things. So it's a really painful place to be. So what happened is that when you're a child and your anger and your pain or your pleasure, anything wasn't acknowledged and seen for what it was, and your needs weren't met, you don't learn how to endear. You didn't get the chance to connect in that way to your caregivers or whoever was around you. You didn't learn how to fawn. You didn't learn, you couldn't run away. So you just had to stand and fight. And that's usually what people choose to do, because that's what makes sense, because they can't do any of the other things to cope, right? They're too little. So that's how the pattern starts. And a lot of the time, we don't realize subconsciously that we're even using this to be self-allegiant or stand our ground, or keep our boundaries or get our needs met. Because in a flawed social system where people are always trying to get one over on you or something like that, it just seems like usually when you respond with anger, it either does get you what you want or it doesn't. and you face these repercussions. But a lot of people would rather face the repercussions and the punishments from it rather than to ever be hurt like that deeply ever again. A lot of the times, people that have this pattern, they were victimized and abused in childhood, and the people around them just stood idly by while it happened. Maybe they were told to stow it. Maybe they tried to speak up about it. Maybe they didn't have the language to talk about it, and they blamed themselves. And so there's different layers to this, but it's a really deep hurt. And the thing is that they just adopt anger as a way to be self-allegiant, love thyself, respect thyself, and to not ever be hurt like that ever again. if they don't get mad, then they feel like they actually are kissing the foot that kicked them, like they're giving somebody a green light to go ahead and hurt them over and over again. And in personal relationships, it sometimes if people have this to the point where if they're not heard, like if they make a request about something and somebody doesn't listen, they can blow up on the person. Like it's a really deep wound. It really, I can't say that enough. So it's got to be dealt with from the root of the problem. And, you know, to have the betrayal or the trauma in childhood and then, you know, not have that how can I say this, not having had that taken care of and everything, it feels like this person has to put on anger every day in order just to function. And they make it their major mode of being, so to speak. So there are some ways to break out of this pattern. And one is to have a really huge dose of compassion. You know, if you're angry because your parents didn't ever support you when you were happy, they weren't around, you know, when and making a difference, celebrating your wins. You know, if they were just like, oh, okay, you turned some cartwheels. Okay, that's really good, honey. That's great. And they were just lackluster and disconnected all the time, then that could create a really angry person. So if you have anger come up, you've got to slow down in that moment and just give yourself a really big, huge dose. And I know this might sound, but a really huge dose of compassion right in that moment instead of getting angry. When you feel it well up, just take a deep breath and be like, I'm feeling threatened right now. There's a perceived threat. I am not feeling safe. I feel stepped on. I feel like somebody's trying to manipulate me, and, you know, I want to speak up and do something. I'm not feeling right. Start to tap into that and just give yourself, be like, it's okay. It's okay that you're feeling like that, but you're safe. I've got you. Just kind of talk to yourself a little bit and just really be compassionate with yourself, because the thing is, we have to acknowledge this pain in a real way. You can't, you know, when anger comes up, you can't minimize it. You can't explain it away. You can't judge it. You can't dismiss it. None of that stuff. You're not being silly or stupid. You know, don't do that to yourself. Validate it for what it is. It's a warning. It's saying, here, I'm here as an opportunity, you know, here I am. So just give yourself a lot of compassion. The second thing is that the pain has to be dealt with. You have to, you know, get to the pain that's underneath the anger. And you've got to feel it. You've got to recognize it, slow down, and attend to it like a crying child. Okay? You wouldn't let your kid just scream its head off and not knowing what's wrong, right? So don't do that with yourself. Right when you acknowledge it, huge compassion, then deal with the pain that's underneath it. Why am I feeling this way? Why does this trigger me? What is my issue? You know, and start to deconstruct it. Go write about it. Do different things. But you don't always have to erupt in anger. You know, there's different things that we can start doing. The third thing is to deal with this is you start to change your perception. You start working with a coach. You start opening your heart chakra up. You start being able to trust yourself. You start being able to trust other people, you know, because this looks a lot more like self-loyalty than you blowing up on somebody, beating the crap out of them, and then going to jail, right? This is self-loyalty, is slowing down and giving yourself what you need, you know, meeting your needs, creating some different ways to be loyal to yourself, you know, and disrupt and break this pattern. So if any of this stuff sounds familiar, what I'm laying down, you can direct message me and we can start to work on it, because I've been there. I know what it feels like, and I know that you can start to tap in and change some of this stuff and really deal with the hows and whys and heal that and get past it. I love you, and I'm here for you, and I want you to know that I understand this pattern very well. I've lived through it. So, like I said, if any of this makes sense to you, if this rings a bell, sounds like you don't have to live this way. We can get you to a different place of where you're empowered and you're actually healing and responding appropriately to things and living a much happier, thriving life that you so richly deserve. So anyway, I love you all, and I hope to see you soon.